So one of the things that I think at least several of us want to do, because it's something that's part of our identity, is to flash our card. This was a replacement because my first one I lost after carrying it with me every day for 28 years, and Tom was good enough to replace it. Also, I finally earned one of the VIP ones with a little chip on it. It took me enough years. My involvement back in the 70s and the early 80s was actually peripheral. I was finishing up my residency, and I wanted to learn to program, and somebody had a course that they were giving. The person happened to be the chair of the Mumps Users Group that year. And as I was leaving residency and moving to Atlanta, ended up deciding to go to the VA for a year before I went out into private practice. And the person at Washington University said, oh, a friend of mine or a couple of friends they've just joined the VA. They're going to be putting mini computers out into the VA. And I said, okay. So since I lived in Baltimore, I came up, and it was probably around February of 1978 that I waltzed over to central office and met these guys, Ted O'Neill and Marty Johnson, and heard what they were doing. I said, oh, well, I'm going to Atlanta, going to be down there, and yeah, I'm interested in computers. They said, good, we'll get you a computer. You'll get there in July, and we'll work and hire a programmer and get you a mini computer, because that was their process. They actually teamed you up in a hospital. And I said, oh, great. So I came up, I think I saw him one more time, and then went to Atlanta. And I went into the VA in Atlanta and said, yeah, I'm here. By the way, there's some people at central office who are doing computers. We're going to have a computer here in 6 months. Now, those of you who've been in the VA, the idea that you're walking in and you're some staff physician and, oh, we're going to get a computer in 6 months. Yeah. You don't understand. And I said, no problem. And we were communicating and moving forward. And in fact, I got to go to this meeting in December of 1978 where they laid out all of the activities that were going to go on. Medical administration would be in Oklahoma City, and radiology would be in Columbia, Missouri, and they kind of divvied up the parts of the hospital, and they'd work together. And then Ted and Marty came to Atlanta. I think it was the first or second week of December, and we held a meeting, had all the staff there for a few-hour meeting, and said, you're going to be the next ones to get a computer. And then I learned how VA and bureaucracies work. I learned in a way that was frustrating, but Ted and Marty learned in a way that was much harder on them, because a week after they went back, they lost their signature authority and no longer could put computers out, and were outplaced, I think, by January. And Ted was placed out. Marty landed at the Washington VA, where he continued to work. And I didn't get a computer in Atlanta, but I wasn't having my career and my life changed dramatically the way that Ted did. It's amazing to look back, because Ted was there for about a year. Came in 77 and started putting these things together. All the things that they did were wrong. Right? I mean, there was this thing about programming and kind of working with the user and iterative programming, kind of throwaway code, and all these things that were not the waterfall in the way that you did things properly. What's amazing, and there was a report that was released on Monday from the Institute of Medicine. It's called the Digital Infrastructure for a Learning Health System. And the Office of National Coordinator in Institute of Medicine had some workshops last year. And you'll see in it, in Chapter 9, it's downloadable as a PDF if you want, a description of what you do with an ultra-large scale system where complexity and things can't be planned from start to finish. And you start looking at the characteristics, and half of them were things that Ted and Marty had done 30, 35 years ago. Just amazing. And then a few more of the things are the things that Ken Kaiser and Tom Garthwaite did in terms of creating an atmosphere of innovation and tolerating mistakes and talking about if you're not making mistakes, you're not at the edge. And that combination, if you look at this list for the ultra-large scale system, is what's needed to succeed in these very complex things. So it was amazing how far ahead of everybody else Ted in particular was as he put this program together. And unfortunately, Ted, I think, never got the credit for what he had done. And there was both not the credit at the time, but not the recognition that those seeds that they planted were what resulted not only in Vista and the most successful implementation of any electronic health record on a large scale, but it was also the basis for the CHCS and DoD, of Indian Health Service. So you're talking about the three major systems in the federal government. And of course, things seeded around the world, Jordan and others lately. And because his career actually was before VA, was at the National Bureau of Standards and getting mumps standardized. It's really the basis for all of the commercial systems that are mumps that are successful. And right now, the leading Meditech has 1,200 implementations. It's the most implementations of any vendor, although it's going down rapidly. And the one that's coming up that has about 400 implementations, but supposedly has 20 or 30% of the docs under it, is Epic. So you've got not only all of the federal, but the major implementations in commercial are directly traceable back to actions that Ted had taken, which is just incredible. I don't know that there's anybody else where that many different the credit for that much of the implementation can go, which is why one of the things that Ted is talking that Tom is talking about and with John is, can we get somebody to do a full-length movie or some sort of a tribute? Because you look at this story of somebody who was visionary and took it on the chin because of being visionary, and yet managed to get those enough out there to grow into what we see today and what we all have enjoyed, and the thousands and tens of thousands of lives that it saved for veterans, and if you think about it, for everyone else. So there's it's a remarkable story, and one that many of us, obviously the faces of those of you who are here, have been a part of that and played a role in it, and we owe that to Ted and to everything that he had done. So I think it's important to get that word out. And meanwhile, it's been a remarkable journey so far. One other thing that Rick Marshall actually reminded me of, about 1995, 1996, Ted came in and said, look, I've got an idea where we can take, I think that was just at the time we were changing from DHCP to Vista. We can take this Vista and we can put it out in a private sector for it to be worked on by everybody. And I don't know whether we use the term open source. I'd have to go back. But I have the proposal that he put in. And actually Rick has it on his computer as well. So Ted already anticipated what is going to happen within the next month. I mean, just remarkable in terms of the kind of things that were going on. So I'm delighted that at this moment, at this cusp of change, with moving forward and hopefully sharing and moving to a new chapter of whatever has been planted here and whatever shape it takes, that in fact we were able to honor Ted's family and have them here and to join us as we move forward. So Thank you. Thank you for being here, and appreciate it.